Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we've got part 2 in our Middara How to Play series. This time we're going to be covering everything you need to know about adventurers and items. So let's dive right into it. Now, while you're watching this, if you do want to get a copy of Middara, they are going to have another Kickstarter on June 24th. That's when it launches, so be sure to go check that out. Also, you can find various ways to support the channel in the description below. And this is going to be a total of a 5-part series. And I know it's been a good bit of time between the first part and the second part, but now that we have the upcoming Kickstarter, I'm going to make sure to crank out the remaining 3 videos after this one much quicker to get it set up for that Kickstarter so you can watch them, figure out if this is a game for you. I have had an absolute blast with this game so far. So let's get down into part 2 of how to play Middara. When starting a new adventure or playing a new crawl mode scenario, players will be instructed to select and set up adventurers. In the adventure mode, the adventure book will dictate what adventurers the players have in their party. In crawl mode, players get to pick from any available adventurer with an adventurer card. This includes adventurers not only from Unintentional Malum Act 1, but also from any future Middara product. Regardless of the chosen mode, the adventure book or the crawl book will provide specific details on how to set up adventures for the first time. Keep in mind though that this initial setup is just the beginning. While playing Middara, the adventurers will grow in both the amount of disciplines and the quality of items they're equipped with. Let's take a closer look at the information found on the adventurer cards. This is the stamina recovery bar. The red dots indicate how many stamina points an adventurer gains each turn, and the total amount of dots denote the maximum number of stamina points she may have at any time. Most commonly, players will find 3 red dots and an additional 2 gray dots. The adventurer's special ability is found here, in this case, Nimble Fighter. These are the dice the adventurer will use for casting and conviction checks, in this case 1 purple die for casting and 2 purple dice for conviction. We'll discuss both casting and conviction checks a bit more in the conviction and casting upgrade section of this video. Presence, lore, agility, perception, and strength are the 5 skills commonly used to make skill checks when instructed by adventure mechanics or special encounter rules. This is the adventurer's base maximum health points. When an adventurer acquires damage equal to his maximum health points, he is defeated. This is the adventurer's base defense value. This determines how difficult the adventurer is to hit. And this is the adventurer's base movement value and determines how many spaces he may move when taking a move action. There are 6 types of items in Middara: weapons, armor, core, accessories, relics, and consumables. On an item card, players will find the item's name, the cost to purchase the item, various icons that provide information about the item's tags, which are used to describe the item. Tags are passive and always in effect while using the item, and we'll discuss both icons and tags in more detail later in this video. The item's text contains abilities that may be used while the item's equipped. The item's symbol abilities are located here, and this is the item's tier and type, which we'll discuss more shortly. Adventurers have limitations on how many items they may carry and equip. When equipping items on an adventurer, they may not exceed the following limits: 2 hands of weapons, meaning 2 one-handed weapons or 1 two-handed weapon. And the weapons may have a maximum of 1 upgrade per hand. 1 armor, which may have 1 armor upgrade. 1 core, which may have 1 core upgrade. 1 accessory. 3 consumables. 3 relics. 1 familiar, and 1 companion, which I have not unlocked any of yet, so I don't have one to show you. In addition, each adventurer is considered to have a pack where they may keep 3 extra items. Any items placed in the pack are considered stored and are not usable until they are equipped, but on the positive side, any items in the pack do not affect other item limitations. If an item is flipped, exhausted, or used when it is moved into the adventurer's pack, it remains so until the normal conditions occur that would unflip it, unexhaust it, or remove the used token. The party stash represents all items that the party owns but doesn't currently want to equip. The party stash never runs out of room, and players may keep as many items as they'd like in it. These items may only be accessed during story rounds, which means they may not be accessed during encounters. In Middara, adventurers will gain gold and experience points in a variety of ways, such as by defeating opponents, collecting loot, and completing encounters. Gold and experience points earned while playing will carry over from session to session and are tracked on the adventure sheet here for gold and here for experience points. This adventure sheet is found on page 72 of the rulebook, but can be downloaded for free and more copies printed. Gold is shared as a group, while experience points are gained and spent as individual adventurers. During the game, adventurers will be able to spend the gold they earn on items and the experience points they earn to learn disciplines. Adventurers will be specifically instructed when they are allowed to buy items and learn disciplines. Most commonly, this will occur in the shop and train phase. When given the opportunity to learn disciplines, players may learn from any of the discipline trees. There are 4 different tiers of items in Middara. Mundane items are easily found all over the world. Common items are magical in nature but are common enough that people can easily get their hands on them. Uncommon items are harder to find and only adventurers who frequent dungeons and lost tombs are likely to find them. Rare items are special. Each has a history all its own. It's typical that in time, successful adventurers will get their hands on rare items. While there are 4 tiers of items, there are 6 different types of items. Weapons augment an adventurer's combat dice pool and are used to make attacks. Armor helps keep an adventurer alive during encounters. Cores are magical devices that augment an adventurer's ability to avoid damage. Most commonly, cores will increase the adventurer's defense value. Consumables can be used once and are then discarded unless otherwise noted. Relics provide many various benefits. And accessories further augment an adventurer's ability to avoid damage but also have unique properties beyond that. Many items have 2 different usable sides. Some of those items have the double tag and have different functions and abilities depending on which side is face up when equipped. When using an item with the double tag, adventurers may choose which side they would like to equip following the rules and limitations of any other weapon. Players may use the re-equip action to treat double-tagged cards as if each side is a different card. In other words, the re-equip action allows players to flip their card to their side. It's important to realize that many items in Middara are double-sided, but do not contain the double tag. Only items specifically with the double tag may be treated as if they are 2 different items. For instance, the deflection core is double-sided and has this flip tag, meaning there is a condition where this card would be flipped over. However, that is not the same thing as this double tag, which allows the player to treat each side as its own distinct card. Adventurers may sell items anytime they are in the shop and train phase. For each item that is sold, the party gains gold depending on the tier the item is in and whether or not the item is unique. This chart on page 27 of the rulebook indicates how much gold players earn. It's important for players to remember that upgrades will not grant any extra gold when selling an item. The upgrade is simply returned to the upgrade deck for later purchase. Speaking of item upgrades, let's take a look at them. There are 4 item upgrade types: core, armor, weapon, and mixed. It's important to realize that upgrades may only be equipped to items that match the tag on the upgrade. Item upgrades may be purchased with gold when instructed. Usually this is during the shop and train phase. When purchased, they are attached to the corresponding item and provide new abilities to that item. When purchased, they are attached to the corresponding item card and provide new abilities to that item. One-handed weapons may only equip 1 item upgrade, while 2-handed weapons may equip 2. One exception to this rule is the longsword, which is a double-tagged weapon and is one-handed on one side and 2-handed on the other. This weapon may only ever be equipped with 1 upgrade. This is not reflected on the card or in the rulebook for the first printing of Middara, but will be reflected in future print runs. Masterwork mundane item upgrades are the only upgrades available at the beginning of the adventure. However, players will unlock more item upgrades as the adventure continues. One way they will do this is by drawing monster loot cards. We'll discuss this in more detail shortly. The cost of upgrading varies depending on the tier of the item being upgraded. Players can refer to this chart on page 28 of the rulebook. It's worth noting that unique items do not cost more to upgrade than non-unique items. Monster loot items and story items may not be upgraded. The amount of available item upgrades are limited to their card counts. If a player wishes to purchase an item upgrade but no more are available, that player may instead pay the cost of the upgrade to transfer it from an item it is equipped to and then equip it to a different item. Similarly, if a player wishes to replace an upgrade with a different upgrade, she must also pay that same cost. Icons are listed on just about every single card in Middara. On an item, the icons are used to know what kind of benefits you gain from equipping the item. Weapons use icons to determine their range and which combat dice they use. Armor uses icons to determine the bonus to your armor value or to your health. Cores use icons to determine the bonus to your defense value. On Adventurer and Combatant cards, icons are used to convey the different stats figures have. Page 31 of the rulebook provides a complete list of the icons players will find in the game, and an explanation for each. Each of these are covered in detail throughout this video series, but keep this page in mind if you need to quickly reference them. One important thing I will draw your attention to, though, is that weapons with the melee icon may not be paired with weapons with the ranged icon. However, either may be paired with a weapon with the melee and ranged icon. Every ability has a condition such as exhaust or passive. Condition tags let players know under what circumstances the ability can be used. Stamina points and symbols required to perform an ability are also considered conditions. Before an ability can be used, all associated conditions or costs must be met. Let's run through the condition tags players will encounter playing Middara. If players ever need to reference these condition tags quickly, they can be found on the bottom of page 30. Combo means that if another item with the indicated tag is also equipped, the listed ability may be used. So this shield, which as you can see here is light, would allow combo light to be used, meaning the player would gain finesse orange die. However, if instead this sword were used, which you can see is light and a sword, then combo light and combo sword both would be active, meaning that not only would the player gain finesse orange die, also your attacks gain +1 physical damage. Discard means that to use this ability, the player must discard this card. Exhaust means to use this ability, the player must exhaust this card. An exhausted card may not use any printed abilities that require the player to exhaust it, but all other aspects of the card may still be used as normal. To use an ability with the flip tag, players must flip the card. Flip cards do not unflip until the player is instructed to do so, most commonly when restoring adventurers. When a card is flipped, the player now uses the icon symbols and ability text printed on the back of the card. Passive means this ability always grants its bonus or detriment to the figure and is considered to be in effect at all times. The once per encounter tag means the ability may only be used, as you might expect, once per encounter. When the ability is used, players should place a used token on that ability so they don't forget. When you see the status condition, this ability or effect occurs during the status phase of that figure. While the condition tags are found on page 30, nearly every other tag in the game is found on page 32 and 33 of the rulebook. I'll go through each of these tags in part 5 of this series in detail, but I do want to bring special attention to one important note in particular. Material is found by defeating combatants and drawing the monster loot card in the combatant loot deck. Once a card with a material tag has been drawn, in this case the chipped chitin, all item upgrades associated with that material will then be available for purchase at all shop and train phases. So for instance, this cave sickle upgrade requires the chipped chitin. Buying an item upgrade does not discard the material it came from. Also, once acquired, the upgrades are available for as long as the material is in the party's possession, even if it's in the party stash. Discipline cards contain abilities that can be used at different times depending on their listed conditions. The name of the discipline is always found at the top of the card. This is the experience points it costs to purchase the discipline. If the discipline has a series of dots like this, they indicate the amount of stamina points an adventurer must pay to use the discipline. This shows the discipline tree the discipline came from, as well as its level. And then the majority of the card is taken up with ability text, as well as, on occasion, some flavor text. Disciplines are most often learned when adventurers spend experience points during the shop and train phase. As I previously mentioned, the experience point cost is found here. This cost is increased by +1 experience point for every other discipline of the same level the adventurer already has. This plus sign next to the cost is there to remind players of this. For example, if the player also wanted to learn anticipated attack, you can see it's a level 1 discipline from the martial tree. Because the player already knows a level 1 discipline from any other tree or the same tree, this now will cost 4 experience points, the 3 that's listed, plus 1 for each other level 1 discipline the player knows. The same would be true even if the player was attempting to learn another level 1 discipline within the same tree. Disciplines are separated into 5 different discipline trees, and each tree is divided into levels 1 through 4. Adventurers may always learn level 1 disciplines, but in order to learn a discipline of a higher level, an adventurer must first learn at least 1 discipline from each previous level of that tree. So if the player already knows the familiar discipline and wants to learn the exalted summoning discipline, she would first have to learn a level 2 discipline to bridge the gap between the two, perhaps BFF. An adventurer may learn as many disciplines as she can afford during the adventure, but she may never learn a discipline which she already knows. Assemblage is the art of whispering to the things that walk in the realms outside of our own. The abilities of assemblage often reflect a jack-of-all-trades mentality. Early levels of assemblage will grant the player abilities such as gaining extra action and granting positive effects. Cruor is risky by its very nature, but also can be very powerful, as long as the caster is willing to give a little of themselves in the process. Those who follow Cruor will likely gain the ability to ruin and disease their enemies, but must be careful not to lose themselves in the process. Martial is the embodiment of physical combat in Middara and can turn an adventurer into a combat powerhouse. Martial-based adventurers will often become adept at both melee and ranged attacks. Sanctus boasts a wealth of strong and diverse abilities. Sanctus-based adventurers can expect to gain the ability to redirect damage, heal, and even fold reality to teleport themselves or others. Subterfuge is the art of the rogue and the assassin and focuses both on big damage and more defensive tactics like dodging, free actions, and moving without penalty. Many abilities offer conviction and casting upgrades. An upgrade of this type allows an adventurer to roll better dice when rolling conviction checks or when casting spells. As was previously mentioned, adventurers use the dice printed on their adventurer card for conviction checks and casting rolls, which is usually 1 purple die when casting, or 2 purple dice for conviction. Adventurers are limited to 1 upgrade to their casting roll and 2 upgrades to their conviction checks. If an adventurer ever has multiple abilities that provide more upgrades than the amount allowed, she must choose which upgrade she wishes to use. So in this case, the Wand of Missiles would upgrade the casting die to a white die, replacing the purple die entirely. Meanwhile, the Fate Engine provides 1 conviction upgrade to a white die, so one of these dice would be replaced with a white die. Before we wrap up this video, let's take a look at some other important rules regarding items. Some items in Middara can place a plank token on the board. A plank token counts as normal terrain and can replace all terrain types with the exception of obstructing terrain. When placing a plank token, the player may choose any available size plank token. Anytime an item card is drawn as an encounter reward, the player may immediately add it to that adventurer's items. The adventurer may also make a free re-equip action if she chooses. If this item puts the adventurer over her item limit, then she must discard an item to make room for it or discard the newly drawn item. So there you go. That's everything you need to know on how to play Middara. Be sure to check out their Kickstarter coming up in June. If you like this shirt I'm wearing and a lot of the other shirts I wear during these videos, go check out the link in the description below for Mr. Meeple. They have all kinds of amazing shirts over there. And there's other great ways to support the channel in the description below, or you can just subscribe, thumbs up or thumbs down the video, and be sure to share, find me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.